Let's look at how to form and solve a quadratic equation. So the first question says, given the trapezium has an area of 9 centimeters squared, work out the length of the labeled sides. And so we have the trapezium here with the labeled sides marked in red. Now the formula for the area of a trapezium is given by the following. So we have that the area equals to a half brackets a plus b multiplied by h, where a and b are the two parallel sides of the trapezium and h is the perpendicular height. And so we can see that the two parallel sides are marked as x minus 1 and 2x plus 1, and the perpendicular height is marked as x plus 1. So substituting this into our formula, along with the area of 9 centimeters squared, we end up with 9, which equals to a half brackets x minus 1 plus 2x plus 1. And then we multiply this by the perpendicular height, which is x plus 1. So we can write that in brackets. Now if we multiply both sides of the equation by 2, we can get rid of the half. So 9 times 2 gives us 18. And then we have x minus 1 plus 2x plus 1, which simplifies to 3x, and x plus 1 in brackets. Now expanding the brackets, we end up with 18, which equals to 3x times x, which is 3x squared, 3x times 1, which is 3x. And now if we take away 18 from both sides, we end up with 3x squared plus 3x minus 18, which equals to 0. And now we can see that all three of these terms have a highest common factor of 3, and so dividing all of these by 3 gives us the following. So we get 3x squared divided by 3, which is x squared, 3x divided by 3, which is just x, and minus 18 divided by 3, which is minus 6. And so we're looking for two numbers that multiply to make minus 6 and add to make 1. And those two numbers are 3 and minus 2. And so we end up with, in brackets, x plus 3 and x minus 2, which equals to 0. And so this gives us solutions of x equals minus 3 or x equals to 2. Now thinking about the context of the question, since we have a trapezium with side lengths, and we know that lengths must be positive, then using x equals minus 3 would give us negative lengths. And so therefore we don't use this value. Instead, we end up using x equals 2. So substituting x equals 2 into these three lengths, we end up with the following. So 2 minus 1, which gives us 1, 2 plus 1, which gives us 3, and 2 times 2, which is 4, plus 1, which gives us 5. And since the area is in centimeters squared, then we can mark these lengths as centimeters. And so these three values are the lengths of the labeled sides. The second question says, in total, 75 students chose A-level subjects in the Venn diagram. Work out how many students chose each subject. So we have a Venn diagram with maths and English labeled, and we can see that these three regions are given as algebraic expressions, and we also have a 5 on the outside. Now, since there are 75 students in total, then everything in the Venn diagram must add up to 75. And so we can add these expressions together and make this equal to 75. So doing that, we end up with x brackets x plus 3 plus 2x plus 10 minus x plus the 5, which now equals to 75. And now if we simplify this, we end up with the following. So expanding the bracket, we get x times x, which is x squared, x times 3, which is 3x, and then we have plus 2x plus 10 minus x plus 5, which equals to 75. Now collecting like terms, we end up with the following. So x squared, and now 3x plus 2x is 5x, minus the x is 4x, so plus 4x, and then 10 plus 5 gives us 15, and this equals to 75. Now if we take away 75 from both sides, we end up with x squared plus 4x, and so 15 take away 75 is minus 60, and this equals to 0. So we're looking for two numbers that multiply to make minus 60 and add to make 4. And these two numbers are 10 and minus 6. And so factorizing the quadratic, we now end up with x plus 10 in brackets and x minus 6 in brackets, and this equals to 0. And so from this equation, we end up with two solutions, the first being x equals minus 10 and the second being x equals to 6. Now again, thinking about the context of the question, since we're dealing with a Venn diagram and we're looking at the number of students, then we know that none of these sections can be negative. And so if we were to use x equals minus 10 in, say, the intersection here, then we would get 2 times minus 10, which is minus 20. And we can't have minus 20 students. Therefore, we reject x equals minus 10 as a solution. And so using x equals 6, we have the following. The number of students that just chose maths is represented by the expression x brackets x plus 3. And so if we substitute x equals 6 in, we get 6 plus 3, which is 9, and then 9 times 6, which is 54. And so students that chose maths only is represented by 54 students. Now looking at maths and English, this is the intersection, and so that's represented by the expression 2x. So substituting x equals 6, we have 2 times 6, which equals to 12. Now looking at students that just chose English, that's represented by the expression 10 minus x. And so 10 minus 6 gives us 4. And so finally, those students that didn't choose maths or English is represented by 5 here. And so we can write that in. To double check that our answer is correct, we know that all 4 of these numbers must add up to 75. And so 54 plus 12 is 66, 66 plus 4 is 70, and 70 plus 5 is equal to 75. Therefore, this is the correct answer.